for this afternoon and tonight, a significant winter storm, including heavy snow with limited freezing.
Hello, and welcome to the Snowbrains podcast, where it's my job to interview the most intelligent people in the snow sports industry and pass their fascinating knowledge on to you, our listeners. I'm your host, Miles Clark. I'm a professional free skier, a professional mountain guide, a UC Berkeley molecular cell biology graduate, the founder and CEO of Snowbrains, and today's episode is going to be a little different. I'm going to tell you a ghost story from 18,000 feet up. A ghost story I first heard while evacuating a patient off a high volcano in Mexico. This story still gives me the shivers when I think of it. Today's Snowbrains podcast is brought to you by Valle Nevado, Chile's premier ski resort located 90 minutes from Santiago, with the largest skiable domain in South America and world-class heli-skiing deep in the Andes Mountains. This story took place in November 2009, and the story is called The Ghost of La Anciana. It's 2 a.m. It's dark. The road's rough. I turn around to see my client's eyes are the size of dinner plates. He's wheezing, coughing, and breathing shallow. He's contracted high-altitude pulmonary edema, H.A.P.E, at 15,000 feet on El Pico de Orizaba, the tallest mountain in Mexico. And he doesn't know if he'll make it or not. I tell him he's going to be fine, that we're headed down, that it's going to get better. But I'm as unsure as he is. I uneasily look to my left to see our Mexican driver and fellow mountain guide Oso looking into the darkness. He then looks hard right with staring eyes. There's nothing to see there, just our headlights, blackness, and the occasional patch of dune grass. He looks hard left again. He's searching for something. I lean in close and whisper to him in Spanish so that my client will understand. Oso, ¿qué estás buscando? Oso, what are you looking for? He takes a deep breath, looks down, and mutters, La Anciana, the old one. A chill shoots through me, pinpricks pulse over my arms and neck, and I twitch. I look back at my client. He's spitting up blood. You're okay, Greg. You're doing okay, I tell him. Keep breathing as deep as you can. In and out. In and out. As deep as you can, man. Keep it going. You're going to be okay. I look back to Oso. His eyes are still searching the darkness. I ask him in Spanish, ¿Quién es la anciana, Oso? Who is the old one, Oso? I'm in Mexico with 3 clients from Colorado to climb the 18,702-foot volcano El Pico de Orizaba, located 120 miles east of Mexico City. It's the 3rd highest mountain in North America and the 2nd most prominent volcanic peak on Earth after Africa's Mount Kilimanjaro. In my 5-year professional mountain guiding career, this is my first trip guiding clients independently, and it's quickly taken a nefarious turn. The day before our summit attempt, we'd gone on a training hike from our base camp at 14,000 feet to a large patch of permanent snow above 15,000 feet. One of my clients complained of nausea and a headache at the beginning of the hike. The higher we ascended, the more his symptoms worsened. While working on cramponing, ice axe self-arrest, and rope management skills, his symptoms subsided, but returned with a vengeance on our descent back to camp. Not long after reaching camp, he began to show the terrifying signs of H.A.P.E. First, a deep gurgle of the lungs, then a spit up of pink phlegm. H.A.P.E is always fatal if left untreated and is the #1 killer at high altitude. The only treatment for H.A.P.E is to get the patient to a significantly lower elevation fast. I ran from camp to a nearby mountain hut where trucks drop off climbers from the high plains village of Chilachichuca. It was after dark, but a truck sat outside the hut. I barged in through the hut door, breathless, and woke up all 50 climbers in the hut by yelling out in both Spanish and English, Por favor, necesito ayuda. Mi cliente tiene edema pulmonar. ¿De quién es esta camioneta? Necesito que nos lleves abajo de la montaña ahorita. Si no bajamos ahorita, él va a morir. Te juro. Please, I need help. My client has H.A.P.E. Whose truck is that? I need you to take us down the mountain. If we don't get him down now, he's going to die. In the dank, black air of the hut, a man groaned, rolled over, and said, It's my truck. I looked over to see a large, rotund man who couldn't possibly be a climber blinking in my headlamp's beam. His black eyes, black hair, black mustache, distressed expression, and double chin came into view. His name was Oso. He owned a guiding company and had climbed this mountain hundreds of times. By the time I'd returned to camp and carried my sick client to the hut, the truck was warmed up and ready to go. We jumped into the back of a 1979 Jeep Scout, which Oso would use to take my client to salvation and me to trepidation. Driving down El Pico de Orizaba that night, Oso's story of La Anciana blurred the boundaries of reality and the unknown. La Anciana is an old lady, Oso shares in Spanish. She wears a dress made of nothing but torn up old rags. She is very old, and I saw her near here once. At this elevation, at this time of night, on this exact road. I don't want to run into her. That is why I'm looking for La Anciana. ¿Quién es ella? ¿Por qué ella está acá arriba? Who is she? Why is she up here? I ask. We don't know. Many people have seen her on this mountain, Oso rumbles. There are so many stories. She is lost. Her hair is very white. Her dress is very torn. And she's always very hungry. Ella es real. She's real. Yes, I've seen her twice. I also saw her in the hut. I was making dinner for my clients. They were on a training exercise. I was bent over my stove and I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I turned around expecting a climber. It was her. She was bent and old. She looked down at the floor. Her hand was extended to me, opening and closing. She said, "Dame comida, dame comida, dame comida." Give me food. Her voice was deep and rasping. I was afraid, but also afraid not to obey. I grabbed some food in front of me and put it in her hand, which closed around the food quickly. Both her arms folded into the tattered dress and disappeared. She turned around and walked out of the hut. I got up and walked to the door to see her go, to see if she was real. I saw the dark outline of her figure as she disappeared into the fog. Pause. Breath. It always happens this way. She finds people alone in the hut. She comes in, reaches out her hand, and asks for food. Then she leaves and disappears into the fog. She might be a ghost, but she's definitely real. She always comes back. It had been a long, heavy night. My head was swimming, and my client was suffering. But we made it down to the doctor in the village of Chalachachuca. The doctor examined my client and said that his lungs were damaged, but he'd survive. My client's ketchup-red spit didn't help me sleep, but exhaustion eventually set in. We'd been awake for nearly 24 hours, and not a second of that time was easy. In the morning, my client went back to Colorado. I went back to California, and Oso returned to the mountain. I've yet to return to El Pico de Orizaba, although I know I will someday. I don't know what draws me back there, but I suspect I long for a chance to see La Anciana disappear into the mists. Thank you so much for listening to the Snowbrains podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and please check us out at snowbrains.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Snowbrains. Today's Snowbrains podcast is brought to you by Valle Nevado. Valle Nevado celebrates 34 years, offering North American summer skiing from June to September. Spectacular Andean views, empty slopes, no lift lines, and delicious cuisine paired with Chile's famous wine are all the hallmarks of Valle Nevado vacation. Valle Nevado is a member of the Ikon and Mountain Collective and offers all-inclusive packages for every price point. It's no wonder so many international ski teams and pro skiers and snowboarders call Valle Nevado home every summer. The music for this episode was created by Chad Crouch, and I'm your host, producer, and creator, Miles Clark. Thank you so much for listening.